Okay, people. So today I am joined by Ken Donna Donguines and Jacob
Donguines.
Crawford. Did I just butcher your name again?
Donguines. Yeah, you can try again. It's
Ah,
it's pronounced Donguines.
Donguines. Okay.
Yeah,
Boom, boom. Perfect. Okay. Ken Donguines and Jacob Crawford to talk about their new film, Treasure. Oh, wait, what just happened there? Oh, my screen just went very bizarre. Sorry, Treasure of the Rice Terraces. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me. How are you both doing?
pretty good. Thank you for having us, Kevin.
Awesome.
Yeah, doing great. Thanks, Kevin. Looking forward to chatting.
Yeah, man. Cynthia sent me across the doc, and it was super interesting. I really enjoyed it. How did all of this kind of come about, Ken? Right? Because yeah, it's an interesting thing to kind of, I think, take a look at.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, it's been a roller coaster to make this film. It took us about 5 years since its conception, to deliver the final film. It all started, I guess, when the dream happened, as you've watched in the film. That was my first, I would say, spiritual encounter to Apo Whang-Od's figure and existence. But it wasn't until I made a documentary about the revival of Indigenous tattoo cultures here in Canada, and kind of saw the director and my co-producer at that time receive Indigenous tattoos from these different nations here in Canada, that really sparked my interest even more. Like, why profile someone like Apo Whang-Od, instead of just like putting myself in front of the camera and really document my journey into reclaiming my sense of Filipino identity through our culture. And yeah, and from there, the research and the writing process continued, and then Jacob came on board to produce the project, and just really happy that this is done.
Oh
Jacob,
man.
Jacob will have a lot of things to add to, for sure.
Like one thing, I was definitely curious about is, yeah, at the beginning of the documentary, you say when you got to Vancouver, you didn't feel comfortable like saying you were Filipino.
Mhm.
So, like, where did all of that come from? Like, why was there that hesitance?
Mhm. Yeah, I think it really comes from how I was born and raised in the Philippines. The Philippines as a country is a Western patronizing country. So if you're a
Mm,
foreigner, or you're a mix of something, like just there's some kind of special treatment that you get from people. Especially for someone like me who comes from one of the islands where, there's a lot of tourist destinations. I see people treating more foreigners, like a little bit more respectful than their
yeah,
own people, because I guess, one, they could get more tips because they come from a country that has a tipping culture, versus in the Philippines, like, people don't really tip. Like, that's just not ingrained in our culture.
mm,
And yeah, and growing up, like with my family, I was, I went through this is outside of the film, but I went through crazy, I guess, processes in terms of lightening my skin color.
yeah,
How I was given, like a rock to, like, scrub on scrub on my skin, or use a papaya soap to lighten up my skin, or to even take glutathione pills to lighten up my skin. So, like, with the country being Western patronizing, and then moving to another country from the Philippines, because I know that I didn't have an accent,
mm,
um, like Filipino accent that you really hear from from Filipinos if you move to Canada. So part of me kind of saw that as an opportunity to reintroduce myself. But only to find myself falling in love with my culture even more the further I was from the Philippines, because that's when it piqued my interest to really get to know my culture more instead of hating it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, okay. No, that makes all sense. You know what I mean? Like, what was the thing? So, you're in Vancouver. What was the thing that then kind of started that reversal in thought that made you go, man, no, the Philippines is great. Like, why am I
Mhm.
pushing this away? Was there a specific thing that you saw or experienced?
I think I guess I would say it's from the filmmaking industry, honestly. When I started in the film industry, I was really producing other people's work. I was more of a, I guess, a glorified production manager to pull off logistical,
Mm.
challenges in production to deliver someone else's vision. But then when I was given the chance to direct my first film, and I was really pondering what kind of movie I would tell through that grant, I went back to my roots and really connected with my personal story, which was, being a son of an immigrant and a son of a nanny. And the more I worked on that project, I got connected to the Filipino community, and that's what sparked my interest even more, and just really appreciating the hard work, the labor of love, the personality that comes with the Filipino culture, and how tight the Filipino community could be just because we're Filipinos in a different country.
Yeah.
Um, and then everything else just fell into place from there. And I really taught myself to champion our stories as a Filipino here, not only here in Vancouver, but in Canada as a whole.
Right. Okay. No, that's really yeah, I think that's interesting to hear. And I think it then, it adds that extra kind of emphasis to what this
Mhm.
documentary is, you
Yeah.
know, because it's an interesting one because you're talking about, tattooing and then the fact that tattooing was frowned upon.
Mhm.
And I think it's one of those things, right? Because I think when you look at different cultures, there are certain threads that go through all of them, right? Like everyone's religion has got a flood story. You know what I mean? That like there's certain foods like yams, sweet potatoes, like pepper. There's some foods that you find all over the place, all around
Mhm.
the world. There's a different variant of. And I think tattoos, because I think like in so many different places, tattoos, there was that point where tattoos were frowned upon. You know what I mean? And then, like, because it's funny because watching yours, and I remember as a kid, and you always heard like, oh, thugs, and you know what I mean, layabouts have tattoos, and you know what I mean. It's one of those things that you hear, and then as time went on, suddenly tattoos become the vogue thing. You know what I mean? And everyone just changes their opinion on these. So it is fascinating seeing like all the way in the Philippines that there's this common thread when it comes to this. Like, what did you think about like tattoos as a kid? Was there a fascination with them?
Yeah, as a kid, um, well, tattoos were just really frowned upon, like you mentioned, in our household.
Mm.
So I
But I
come
mean,
from,
frowned upon, but you know what I mean?
yeah,
Like, because you're
you know,
told, oh, don't do this, but see, sometimes
yeah,
secretly you're like, ah,
yeah.
but yeah.
Um, coming from an island where there are a lot of people were covered in tattoos, like it was something that I found fascinating, because how come, my grandma would preach not to do it because we will lose opportunities once we get a tattoo,
Mm,
while being surrounded by people covered in
yeah,
tattoos on this one single island. So it really, it really kind of draw my interest in terms of just the concept of tattoos and what it truly means. Because at a first glance, especially at a young age, it's, you know, it's just seen as cool. But
Mm.
there's got to be more to it, and almost, you know, like almost my first experience getting a tattoo, which was a henna tattoo, I felt like there was something about it that made me feel so confident. I felt
Yeah.
cooler, you
Yeah.
know, and the more I started asking questions within our family to people who have tattoos, it really opened my eyes and the meaning of what it is to get a tattoo, and you know, taking it to the next level, I guess, and putting it up on screen and making a movie about it. It gets even deeper. I'm sure
Mm.
Jacob has more things to add as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, Jacob, growing up, right, what was your kind of connection with tattoos? Did you, you know what I mean, look at them as like this interesting, cool thing, or were you against tattoos? Like, how did
No,
you
yeah. No, I think that's a fascinating question, Kevin. I think, people as they grow up have varying opinions and differing opinions as get influenced from culture and whatnot. And I think um, you touched on a very fascinating point at the beginning, which was how the world as a whole has become very acceptant of tattoos. But there was definitely a period in time where they weren't as accepted, or like you said, you were painted as a thug or a gangster or whatnot. And I think what was fascinating about this doc is how we shed light on the fact that tattoo culture was part of identity,
Mm.
hundreds of years ago. And so it's fascinating to see that the art form was lost and then kind of um, taken away from some of these cultures and made to feel like it was taboo, or criminals only have tattoos and whatnot. And I think coming from growing up in Canada, fairly progressive country in certain areas, a household that wasn't necessarily like fully against tattoos, but wasn't as accepted of them as others, I would say. Like, it was something that, my both my parents don't have any tattoos, and for the longest time they were like, yeah, no tattoos, like, why mark your body, like, you only have one body, um why dirty it with ink and all that sort of thing. And I think it's been fascinating to see my parents arc with tattoos. I was the first one in my immediate family to get a tattoo, and all my tattoos represent really significant moments in my life, whether it was traumatic or positive. They all have very different meanings that are
Mm.
important to shaping who I am today. And so that was why I felt the need that, like, oh, I could put this on my body and be okay with it, and feel like it's going to be a part of my identity moving forward. And so I think that's why I proceeded with, like, getting tattoos, and then seeing my family's arc and understanding of that was fascinating. And I mean, I got to give it to my parents, because they've always been incredibly supportive in it, and have accepted and supported kind of everything I've done, which is a blessing, to have parents like that. But now seeing them talk about tattoos from versus like before I even had my first one, now like they're considering getting a tattoo, and they're late in their 50s, and they look at them completely differently now, and they understand the significance of why one would get a tattoo. And I think tattoos mean so many different things for so many different people, and at the end of the day, it's up to that person, and how they want to handle their body. And that's where I think we should never prevent someone from being able to express themselves with how they want to express themselves, and in today more than ever, it's like we accept people for who they are, no matter what sort of culture they come from, religion and background and race and gender, all that sort of stuff. So it's like, what is it to say that you can't put a tattoo on your body? Like, why was there a culture out there that was like hindering you from being able to express yourself how you want to express yourself? So I think we're in a great place in society where we've been able to see the rise of Apo Whang-Od well into her later years, and it's really rewarding, I think, to be able to see someone who's had such a history and lifespan of tattooing traditional art form practice and whatnot, and then seeing her now transcend globally and impact people and show that it's okay to want to express yourself however you please.
Yeah, no, really. I mean, I would say I agree with everything you said, but I would say just there's two times I feel when maybe there's restrictions on tattoos, right?
Of course.
I
Yeah.
don't think if someone's drunk, you shouldn't tattoo them, right?
Yes.
Because the amount of times you see people, you're like, yo, what's that? You're like, I was drunk. I was drunk. And you're just like, wait, someone tattooed that even though they saw you were drunk out your head? That's
100%.
just messy, man. So I think drunken tattoos and face tattoos.
Mm.
I think a face tattoo, there should be an age restriction on it, just because I think tattoos are fine, right? But I think a face tattoo can hinder where you can work. You know what I mean?
100%.
So I just
Yeah,
think
totally.
we
And I
restrict that to
completely,
a certain age, and then everything else is gravy.
yeah, I completely, agree and relate with luckily I haven't had one of those drunken tattoo nights, but boy, I've got a list of friends who have been a part of
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
And, I totally agree. I think that is, it's a hilarious thing that I'm sure many wake up the next day going, ooh, I don't know if I would have done that, had I not had 12 beers, but, yeah.
It is definitely the thing, right? When I was watching the doc, like if you hadn't have said her age, I don't think I would have thought Apu was 108. That's just insanity right there. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, you can see she's an old lady, but the way, because there's a lot of times, right? There'll be something on the news, right? It'll be Arthur Smith has just hit his 101st birthday, and the Queen is going to send him a letter. Let's go and talk to Arthur. And you've got this old dude in a chair, tubes all in him. You know what I mean? It's this wheelchair. He can't walk, can't move. You know what I mean? You just think there's no quality of life there, right? Because he can't do things when he wants to do things. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But like she's dancing around the frigging village. You know what I mean? She's tattooing from, you know what I mean, 8 in the morning until 8 at night. Like that's craziness. I was
Yeah,
like
she's a
that's just
special.
that on its own is like just a life affirming thing right there. But then just to see everything else she does, it's incredible. Like I think it's the beauty of indie films, right? Because until I watched this, I didn't know about this lady, right? So it's just like you shone the light on her that made me be able to understand who this person is. And that's incredible, right? I love that.
Thank you.
I think, yeah, I think that's like you said. I mean, I think that's the fascinating part about our medium, which is film. Is it's like you get to shed lights on crazy topics, people, all kinds of things, right? So no, but she's truly remarkable. I think they've got a quality of life there that um, may seem underdeveloped in the sense of tech and regular day-to-day infrastructure that so many first world countries rely on. But there's a beauty in being so underdeveloped and not having 5G towers above you with, all kinds of airwaves, going throughout the village. There's, limited electricity, no hot water. Like they just live such a simpler life. No one's worried about the traffic on the way home or, the rat race that is a lot of the Western culture, which is just like hustling, and the amount of pressure and stress we put on each other to be successful or to make it to that next, financial bracket or whatnot that we live in day to day. I think there's something so simple about their life form that they don't sweat the small stuff. Like they don't stress out about, the day-to-day stresses that we have, living in North America or even Europe, right? So I think there's something beautiful about that has helped. I mean, she's not the only centurion in the village.
Yeah.
So it's either something in that water or we all got to get on their diet because they've figured it out. They've cracked the code, Kevin.
Yeah, did you take notes, Ken?
Oh yeah, they sure did. We even asked. We also asked the other elders, it's like what their secret is to long life, because we've met like 100 and Apo is 108, and there was 110, and then Lola Pasad was like 115.
Oh,
And some of them would just say, "Oh, you city people are just stressed."
yeah.
To just see so much of how our fast-paced life here in the city is affecting our aging as well. Versus there in Buscalan, like they're over 100 years old, but one of them still gardening every day. Apo Whang-Od would walk the rice paddies and collect some firewood. And they're still pretty active because it's also like it's almost hiking when you go around their village because you're going up and down. It's really flat. So it's almost like a leg workout for them every day.
I mean, I know there's definitely something about being active, right? The more active you are, that does definitely help with, keeping the body limber and, keeping age away, as it were. So there's definitely something to that for sure.
Yeah.
One could argue that that's their hidden secret, is they just build a village that's basically a hike everywhere you go, and no matter where you're going, you're getting a workout in. But I mean, they make it so you have to hike to the village. So it's like they're like, you know what, if you want to come to our village, you got to hike up the mountain to get to us. So you're in your stripes before you're even in the village.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's gonna keep a lot of the because I think it was, oh gosh, was Rem? Was it Rem? One of the other Apu's mentees, who works with Grace, one of the other girls who tattooed.
Remy, maybe Remy.
Yeah, I think it was her. Like, I think she said, or it might have been Grace, but it was just like, I hope, like, because Apu's blown up, being on Vogue and just the Lars's doc and everything. So you just see this influx of people coming to the village and trying to get tattoos. And she was like, I hope when people get the tattoo, they understand what's behind it, right? Rather than, oh, this is cool right now, I'm gonna get one. And I mean, there's definitely something to that, right? People see what the as it were, the cool thing is, and they're like, I want one of those, right? Regardless of if they like it or not. I remember growing up, a kid I knew, he got this jacket. It was terrible. I mean, he might have liked it, but I just thought it was some ugly ass jacket. And I'm like, yo, what's up with the jacket? And he was like, but it's Fila, right? And it was just because it had the name on it, it was just like, well, you gotta love it just because it's this thing, right? And there's people that just see things as that, right? So I think there is definitely those people that are probably coming, but if they have to hike, a lot of those people are gonna be like, you know what? I'll just buy a new Gucci handbag or something instead.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that that is definitely one element that I think the village wants to preach is, if you're going to make the pilgrimage to Buscalan, stay a little bit and learn more than just like the tattoo and Apo, because there's such a remarkable amount of people in that village that are so incredible, and the culture is so rich that um, really you could stay there for months and you would just scratch the surface
Mm-hmm.
of the beauty of that village. And I think that's the one fortunate part for me, speaking personally, is now I've been back to that village 3 times since the beginning of uh, the making of this film, and every time I go back and you uncover more and you meet new people, and it's just such a vibrancy within the village and the community there that it's important that people don't just go for the trendy tattoo or the trendy 3 dots or
Mm.
the photo with Apo. There is so much more there that will live on far past Apo's time, and I think that's what's important, is that she's helped really put them into the limelight. But um, even after she's gone, like there's so much beauty in that village and new apprentices coming up to, fill in for Apo and continue the tradition and help share that art form globally. So, the hike's worth it because the beauty at the top is outstanding, but it's important to take the time to recognize the village for who they are and not just the 3 dots.
Yeah, I one thing I thought was just great, and it was kind of like this really nice bookend
Mm.
because you show that footage of Lars's, you know, his show when he meets Apu and gets his tattoo,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a young Grace there. Right, that's when she first came on board as a, and now in yours, she's like her own master, right? She's now this, also this kind of renowned tattooist. So I thought that was such a cool thing to see this footage all those years ago and then see now that this little girl, she's stuck with it, right? Because the amount of times you see people when they're young and be like, I want to be a football player, I want to be this, I want to do that, and they start, and then distractions get in the way and they go off and do something else. But you know what I mean? Coming back and now she's still doing the thing. I thought
Mm-hmm.
that was like really cool.
Yeah, and it spoke so much to how this specific tattoo practice was actually in the brink of extinction
Mm,
before Grace before Grace learned everything. She learned it when she was 9 or 10 years old,
yeah.
if I remember it correctly. And even when I started doing the research for this project, like there were articles already about how Apo Whang-Od is going to be the last traditional tattoo artist in the Philippines. And and finding out that Grace was taught by Apo at such a young age, and she really stayed on, like you said, and he pursued the tattooing practice, really saved this particular practice, because
Mm,
after Grace, L Young picked it up. After the two of them, they apprenticed 20 more tattoo artists, and that from 20 now there's over 100 of female tattoo artists in this village. And that's why now it's called a tattoo village, because wherever you go in the village you hear this, the way
yeah.
Lars described it in the film, the song of the Batok tattoos. And as for me as a Filipino, it gives me full confidence that there's probably a lot more indigenous cultures and practices in the Philippines that haven't been discovered yet. That's hopefully, we can encourage people to get it out there, whether it's in film or through any traditional form of media, especially in the Philippines. Just as a country, we need to love our culture more and put it out there, because it'll be so sad if there's another practice that we encounter in the future and it's considered extinct and nobody's available to take it on. Then
Mm,
we'll,
Yeah, no, for
we'll
sure.
go ahead, we'll lose it fully.
Oh, definitely. You know what would be really interesting? To see like Indigenous tattooing from all over the world. Like have something that brings it all together, because when you look at the way Apu tattoos, like I've seen that in like Hawaii, right? That's
Mhm,
ancient Hawaiians, that's how they tattoo.
mhm,
So it's which is crazy, right? Because you think Hawaii and Philippines, it's they're not close, right? And back in the day, you took a boat anywhere. You know what I mean?
mhm.
A little frigging rowboat, right? So it's not like you just jump on a train, jump on a plane and go visit and be like, oh, how do you tattoo? Right? So you've got these two different places. They both do a thing kind of the same way without knowing. There's something really interesting about that, you know?
Yeah, and I think that's where we got to lean on Lars, because
Yeah.
he's the expert in just traditional tattooing globally, and I think that's what he scratched the surface a bit with Tattoo Hunter, that documentary series he did with Discovery. But yeah, I think there's so much room to dive further into the practices from all over the world, because I know like New Zealand, same sort of thing. There's incredible um, traditional indigenous tattooing out of New Zealand, and there's so many other parts of the world.
Mm,
Um, my cousin's got an incredible stick and poke tribal tattoo across his chest from China, and he got it, through one of the indigenous practices there. And so, yeah, it's fascinating to see the similarities across the art form, but also how unique the style is in how they perform it, or the pigments
Mhm.
that they use, and the meanings behind the designs. Because I think there's, yeah, a lot of cohesiveness across it, but then also such uniqueness in the medium.
yeah,
Same, but different.
exactly. I when you were putting this together, because you visit Lars, you go and he shows you all the pictures and talks to you about tattooing. But when you envisioned the documentary, did you kind of think, let's take Lars with us when we go back to see, when you go for the first time to go see Apu?
Mhm,
Or was that just kind of serendipitous, you know what I mean? Something that just by chance
mhm.
he was like, hey, I'm going at the same time.
I think it really came down to coming in there with some kind of familiarity. The first time Jacob, myself, and our cinematographer went there was just the three of us, so Lars was not there. Um, and it was through Grace, actually, when Grace said, if you work with Lars already knows so many people, in not only in the village but also in the region, where
Mm,
he can connect us with the right people, because he's done filming there, and there's protocols that we need to follow. And also Lars is just a wealth of knowledge, especially when it comes to tattoos, not just tattoos in the Philippines. He's really well versed in tattoos. If you see
yeah.
Lars in person, he's like a walking exhibit. Every
Oh, really?
tattoo, every tattoo is from a different artist, from a different culture, and he's really devoted his life in telling, and in documenting tattoo practices around the world. And then talking to Lars in our preliminary interview, that's when it dawned to me that maybe Lars and Apo haven't seen each other for years as well. Like maybe it would be cool to bring Lars with us and then reconnect with Apo that way. You know,
Mm,
so it's less about just profiling the tattoo artists in the village, and it's really about like each one of us as characters in the film has a specific journey that we're taking. Whether it's reconnecting, understanding our culture, talking about preservation of a cultural practice, they all just weave beautifully together.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. And it's kind of like, it's the interesting thing about kind of tattoos, right? Because, as I say, those ancient tattoos, that was early storytelling, right? That was letting people know information, right? How many kills you had, what achievements you've done, you know what I mean? Just all of those different things would be on the body. And so the documentary is looking at that and telling this other story in this other format, right? It's that what makes it super interesting, because we're looking at all of these different things and these ways of telling story, and it's all coming together. And especially when, you know, towards the end, and you is it Mark Bumper and Celeste?
Bumgarner.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm terrible with pronunciations. I
Very
apologize.
okay.
But it's just, again, that's another way of telling stories through the, you know what I mean, through the dress,
Yeah.
right? So we just have these different formats of storytelling, and it's just so interesting, so engrossing, right? It's just, I think there's no point in this, what, 70 minutes, 75 minutes, that you're like, I think I'm gonna make a cup of tea. You're just like sitting, just absorbed by this whole thing that's taking place, man. It's just a fascinating piece of work.
Thank you.
No worries, man. Like, when, because you got a tattoo, right? At
Yeah.
the end.
Oh, most of us.
Yeah. So what I'm interested about, right? Because Jacob, when you got your tattoos, like just your, you know, tattoos through the years and all of that, how much time did you put into thinking, what shall I get tattooed? All right, how am I gonna cement this memory on my body? Like, how much time do you put into that?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a fantastic question. I think for me, the previous tattoos I had actually came quite quickly in the sense of understanding what I wanted for it, because I think they represented such uh, specific moments in my life. So it was very easy to contextualize, like, oh, this would really help, or this makes sense being on my body because of this experience. So, I had thought of place and, like, wear and size and all that sort of stuff a little bit, but I hadn't necessarily um, spent a ton of time on, like, okay, do I want this or this to represent that moment? It was very like, oh, this is a perfect representation
Mm,
of my experience from that moment in my life, and I feel like that's probably the best way I could, like, orchestrate it into a tattoo. So I didn't necessarily spend a ton of time on it, and then the moments where I actually was like getting the tattoo also have significant, like, meaning and memory. Some of them were kind of spontaneous, but I had already thought of, like, oh, I would get this as a tattoo on my body, and
yeah.
had come to terms with, like, that. And then when the opportunity presented itself to get it, I was like, okay, we got to jump at it. And then getting a tattoo in Buscalan is a whole different experience on, like, what tattoo and how you get it. And I've got tattoos from now 3 of The Apprentice and Apo from our times there. And early on, it was more so the conversation we had with the artists and the apprentice,
Mhm.
and them explaining the meaning behind certain tattoos within their culture and why they feel that they would fit for me personally.
Right,
And so
right.
there's more significance to, like, who you are as a person, and which tattoos really represent you and speak to who you are, and that's why you deserve that tattoo within their culture. um, I wasn't headhunting, so unfortunately, I wasn't getting a tattoo for any crazy warrior work that I'd accomplished up there. Um, More of a lover, not a fighter. So, um, but yeah, it was really cool to just hear their meaning behind the different tattoo designs that they have, and why the apprentice felt that those ones were good fits for me, just from the way that they had, you know, interacted with me for a few days prior.
Right. Okay. So it's a few days. It's not just because it kind of seemed that it was very, because I wondered about the time, right? How much time you pondered, because it kind of seemed that you just go, you talk to them and they're like, ah, and then they give you the tattoo. And I'm just like, yo, that's real quick, man. I think I would need to kind of let that
There's definitely
permeate a little bit. You know what I mean?
totally.
Yeah.
There's definitely some people that I think definitely go up there and it's pretty quick. They look at the board and they're like, yeah, like we like these designs. And but I know, like speaking from experience, and then the rest of our crew, most of our crew that did get tattooed didn't get tattooed till like the last day of filming in Buscalan. I was hesitant at first before I got my first tattoo from our first visit there, and it wasn't until the last day in that uh, first trip to Buscalan that I got it. And so from my experience, it felt I felt more comfortable getting the tattoo after like spending time with the apprentice or the artist that were doing it, and the village. There's definitely some people though that go out on a whim and they just get up there, get a tattoo, and you know, don't think much of it. But I think, and going back to the history of their process, you know, like Kent covers in the doc, you know, typically the tattoos represented something significant, like, you know, the warriors got specific tattoos, the women got specific
Yeah.
tattoos to be more to accentuate their beauty. So yeah, but for me personally, and I know Kent's experience, obviously, like, you know, his arm was blank at the beginning of this journey, and now it's fully covered pretty much. So, you know, he's
Yeah.
got a whole journey in itself, very different than mine. So
Okay. So what was your tattoo journey, Ken? Like what kind of, like when you kind of envisioned this doc,
Mm-hmm.
did you think I might get a tattoo as well? Or was that more of when you're there and just being around it, kind of you just kind of get captured within the essence of this place, and it just kind of made you feel a tattoo just feels right, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
was it more that kind of thing?
Yeah. When I started my journey, I thought part of it we will just be documenting people getting tattooed. But I definitely came into to that quest with, you know, with an idea that at some point I'll be getting a tattoo.
Right.
Um, and the first time we went, pre-COVID, that was our very first attempt. We didn't make it all the way to the village, but then for, I guess, through faith and serendipity, I found myself, you know, in a house of one of the apprentices of Apo Whang-Od at that time, and she gave me a compass tattoo. And her first read was, "You seem like a guy who's, you know, who's about to just take on any adventures in your life, and I'm gonna give you this compass tattoo so that you know when to come back here in the village again." And that's what stuck with me, because it, you know, more than just the meaning, there was a purpose to the
Mm,
tattoo, that she's almost insinuating that, yes, I'm going to give you this tattoo, but it's going to be different when you actually make it up there and meet Apo and Grace and El Young. So yeah, like what Jacob said, when we started, I didn't have any tattoos. Now it looks like this. This is from, you know, from a lot of the apprentices, from Apo, Grace, El Young, and other folks who have learned stick and poke practice. Um, and other than that, my love for tattoos has gone deeper. You know, like now I would get tattoos not only from, you know, I have various artists I go to if I want a stick and poke that's more on the Kiwi approach. I go to a Kiwi artist here in Vancouver. There's an Iranian artist that I go to that would do some of my fine line work. I have a German tattoo artist who just does minimal tattoo designs.
Mm.
And everything is now tailored to a memory, or or a time in my life where I've conquered certain challenges. So I got myself out of, out of a pit after a chaotic period of my life, and knowing that, especially the tattoos that I can see on my body, are they're beautiful reminders of how much growth I've also had as a human being. Like from careless, I guess, decisions of choosing to put a Harry Potter tattoo on my arm, to now, to now something that's more reflective of my current lifestyle, where I commit myself to getting to know my faith more, getting to know my culture more, and receiving it from the people I love and I care for.
Mm. Yeah. What is your kind of, because this is a, as you say, it was a Filipino traditional art,
Mm-hmm.
right? So what is the kind of thought about people just randomly like going to Busan and getting a tattoo, but not really understanding the culture,
Mm-hmm.
right? Not really trying to embrace what this is. It's kind of like you see people walking around in Che Guevara t-shirts.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But not having a clue who Che Guevara is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's yeah. Do you have a view on that? Like whether it's Filipino, whether it's New Zealand, whether it's Hawaii, whether it's a part of Africa, just getting artwork from a different culture, but not trying to understand what it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Getting it as a cool tag rather than a story, as it were.
Yeah. I think I can speak more on the Filipino lens, because I think majority of the foreigners that come visit Buscalan actually stay there for a bit and get to know the people. They would have intentions of staying overnight or 2 nights, and then they kind of extend for a week, and
Right,
then
right.
it's longer. But for Filipinos, I think it's just a perfect time, I guess, as a community, for us to finally get this some kind of stamp of our Filipino identity. We're lost in terms of our culture. Like, we were colonized by the Spaniards for 333 years, followed by the
Mm,
Japanese and then the Americans after. So as a community, although we celebrate our cultures and we have traditions, a lot of our traditions come from those influences. A lot of us speak English because our constitution and our educational system was adapted from the Americans.
yeah.
Um, and I think, a lot of Filipinos would come up to the village and get that stamp as a Filipino, although they're staying short. I think it speaks so much too of their lifestyle in the Philippines, because they can only afford to go there on a weekend. Or if they have, if it's a holiday, then they would take the chance and make it worthwhile, even though it's fast and sometimes there's a lack of understanding of the depth and the meaning of the tattoos and what the community has to offer. That's, I guess, that's how they see themselves doing the bare minimum, which is
Mm.
to just go up, get that stamp, and at least they can feel proud and come home with a story to tell, not only to their family and friends, but to everyone who's following their journeys online, especially.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's an interesting one, I feel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but not discounting, of course, what Grace said in the doc, that it's definitely really important to get to know, what you're getting into, what you're putting on your body, and the community that's giving it to you. It's really, it's almost a sign of respect to get to know the people who are welcoming you, because they're not just tourist destinations. They're not, exhibits that are hanging on the wall. They're people who are hoping to be respected the way that they're respecting you when you arrive in that village.
Yeah, no, definitely. I kind of feel that, just if you were just getting like, a tattoo in Vancouver, right? Or if I was getting a tattoo in London, that I would be researching and really looking into the artist and the style that they do, rather than I'm not just going to turn up at a random shop and be like, yeah, I think you can tattoo me. You know what I mean? I feel I'm just gonna be doing some research regardless of, what I mean, the type and style and where that tattoo is, just in general. It just seems like the thing to do. Yeah.
I agree.
Mm. Like you had the dream, right? To do all of this. But I'm curious, in your head, what and how did you think this would look like, right? What was the style or kind of approach that you thought, you know what, I want to make this documentary about tattooing. I think I'm going to do it in the vein of, right? I think I'm going to do it or use this approach. And how much did that change when things actually got started?
Yeah, there were definitely comparables when we were working on the project. But I think when we got to the editing phase of it, and I got a really good advice from award-winning documentary filmmaker Ramona Diaz, Filipino-American filmmaker. She was the one who said to me, watch everything first and look for everything that you love, and then tell the story after you've identified all those things.
Mm.
And which was a really good guide for us for a production that has, what, Jake, 74 hours of footage, digital, not including archive, or around that zone.
Yeah, it was like 76 terabytes
Whew.
of footage.
Yeah, so it's a lot of footage to go through. And
Yeah.
and although we have comparables, I think one of the biggest inspirations we had coming into it was the Territory, that's on Disney Plus. And there's just something about our footage in terms of the different formats, the different cameras we've used, the different stories we've captured, that we needed to stick to the theme of identity. And
Mm.
how can we lay out that particular theme given the elements that we're working with and the footage that we love. And I can't take full credit of the creative approach as well. I think this is why film is so magical and so beautiful, because it's not just my work, but it's also the work of Jacob, our editor Elad, our cinematographer John Fleming, and the rest of the team has contributed to the making of this film. Also our composers, who really went outside of their comfort zone to score something like this. Although there were inspirations, I think this is purely a product of hard work, and an effective collaboration from everybody, because I think everybody really tried to perform the best they can for the project. And yeah, I can't thank this team enough. It's a long journey, but I think we really made something special here. It's not only, it's not we didn't just spotlight the community, but we made something for the community by the community.
Mm. Yeah, I think that's the thing. You're telling this story, and it's layered, right? It's not just a one note thing. It's very contextualized, and you're bringing in all of these different elements, and we're seeing the rebirth of this thing, which is so fascinating. As you said at the beginning, you know what I mean? It was talked that Apu was the last, and now, right? I just love that shot at the end, and she's standing with all of the girls that she's kind of mentored, and you're just like, this is insane, right? Because we think about, you know what I mean? Like when you think about your life and everything, and you think, I wonder how many, like if I touched anyone's life, right? I wonder what kind of impact, what wake I may have left. But yo, she can see this incredible impact that she has had. And it's insane, right? You get all of these famous people coming to see her, just the way her apprentices like talk about her and revere her. It's just, man, it's something, right? And being able to see all of that because you lay that out for us. You know what I mean? So we get your story, we get her story, we get Grace's story, we get the continuation of Lars's story. You know what I mean? There's just all of these things. And it's fascinating. And from the beginning of you being like, oh, man, I'm in Vancouver and I just don't feel comfortable saying I'm Filipino. And then at the end, you're like, yo, I just got my tattoo. And like, Apu has just brought this confidence out. And I'm just like, it's this incredible thing, man. It is this incredible thing. And it's your first feature length piece, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yo, I mean, son. Like that's some great shit right there. You know what I mean? You should be mad proud of this piece of work because it really is. As I say, it's like the all of these threads of story told about, you know, this different form of storytelling, and it just all comes together so well, man.
Couldn't have said it any better, Kev. You nailed it. But yeah, I think you touched on something really interesting there about the impact of like storytelling and art, and I don't even know if Oppo really understood the impact she's had, and I mean, I still don't fully know if she understands the impact she's had with Filipinos around the world, but um, just people in general that have been impacted by her from all over the world. When we got to screen the documentary for her, which is the first time anyone actually like truly watched it top to bottom, other than like our in-house team, when we went back to Buscalan and let her watch it and the rest of the village. And it was in that moment where it quickly reminds you of how important our art form is with film, and how much you can document and express and share with people from all over the world, but also how it unites people from all walks of life and all corners of the world. And I truly like to believe that in that moment she got a glimpse of the impact that she's had in a positive way on the world, just through that one screening. Well, I guess she got to watch it back to back twice, so I'm hoping that there were some takeaways. But I think in that moment, that's when I truly felt that seeing her reaction was someone who felt humbled, but also motivated to continue to push and inspire people from all over the world.
Oh man, yeah, because when you see people like that, right? You don't even have to be from that culture to recognize like how impressive, you know what I mean? Just the magnitude of what that person is doing. I think it like transcends language, right? It transcends race and gender, culture, just all of those things. You just marvel at this kind of juggernaut of like, you know, this art form. It's crazy impressive, man. It's crazy impressive. I will ask though one thing, just one little thing, right, for your next project, because like I've got crazy bad eyesight, right? So subtitles are, oh man, they're a nightmare. And like there were parts of your dog that I probably missed just because you've got the white subtitles, and a lot of the time the background that they're on are very light. So you lose the contrast. So it's just like it's really good if you can put a solid background behind the subtitles, and then it just
Totally.
makes it easier to see.
We
Noted.
got to get you the closed caption version because it has that, but yeah, more prevalent. But yeah, oh man, if you've got tough eyesight, there's plenty of subtitles in this one. that
Yeah,
will definitely be challenging. So I hear you, Kev.
but yeah, I a lot of times I don't watch things because of the subtitles, and sometimes it depends how quickly people talk as well. You know what I mean? Because certain cultures speak really fast, and so the subtitles are just like, and just like, oh man, this is impossible.
Well, I'll say, Kevin, you know, I think you managed to pick up on all the major themes and impact from the doc. So you did a great job keeping up with the subtitles, especially in
Yeah.
the challenging moments to watch it. And, you know, I think that that makes us feel really fulfilled to know, you know, the impact it's had on you so far. And knowing that you might have missed a few spots too along the way with the subtitles. So, you know, I appreciate the honesty. And yeah, we can certainly look at even adding that still to the cut. So,
Oh, cool. But yeah, I mean, as I say, it's such a fascinating piece
Mhm.
that, you know what I mean? That's the thing. Like, you didn't want to miss anything. You didn't want to turn away. You're just like, oh man, like what, you know, what new things are gonna be revealed here? Because it's just so, yeah, just so interesting. So yeah, I'm really happy Cynthia, you know, sent this through, because yeah, it's just, you know, the beauties of doing this, that you get to see so many incredible pieces of work and then have these type of conversations, man. So yeah, I appreciate her, and I appreciate you guys giving me your time, you know.
no, thank you. I mean, anyone that takes the time to sit down and watch a film, it means a lot. And it's what we need more of in this industry, is people willing to just take the time and watch all kinds of content from all over the world, and indie films. I think more than ever, you know, we need a platform. We need to be able to get out to people from all over the world, and it really means a lot that one, you have a podcast supporting indie films and films in general, and that Cynthia was able to connect us. So yeah, we thank you so much for the time, and yeah, we'll see you on the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
Likewise,
sure.
Kevin. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for having us. Really means a lot.
Hey, I'm really glad that we could make this happen, man. Like, you're having your world premiere at the Vancouver International Film Festival, I believe, on the 5th and 6th of October.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Correct.
Yeah. I mean, how do you feel about that? Like, that's a big festival, man.
It's
Yeah.
our hometown premiere, so honestly, more excited than nervous, because at least a lot of our family and friends will be able to make it. You know, for a film like this that's very celebratory of our culture, you know, I think it'll be a refreshing take on an identity film. Like, it's not a sad movie. You know, it's a lot of just reflection. It's observatory, but also very meditative.
Yeah.
You know, when it comes to the themes and how our culture is explored in the film.
Yeah, no, it's great. And
Thank you for having us.
no worries. How can people keep track of everything you're doing and future screenings of the film and all of that kind of stuff? Let people know where they can find you both.
For sure, yeah. So I mean, we've been very fortunate so far with the announcement of the world premiere of VIFF that we've had people reaching out from all over the world asking when it's coming to their cities or when they can stream it in their territory and whatnot. So right now we don't have any exact answers or updates on when it'll reach Europe or the US or Asia. However, the best place to follow along is on our website, which is just www.treasuresofthericeterraces.com. There's a way to subscribe to the newsletter on there. And so anytime there's screening updates, the newsletter will go out. And so anyone who's on that list will receive it, and it'll provide updates on, when and where it'll be screening. And then also our Instagram page, which is Treasure Tattoo Doc, or at Treasure Tattoo Doc, is a great way to stay up to date. And, we're responsive. Our marketing team's responsive on there as well. So we can answer any questions that people may have on screening times and when it'll reach their territory. But we're excited to push hard this fall to line up its international distribution, and can't wait to get it out to audiences all over the world.
Tremendous. Oh, that's great. People, the links will be on the website, so make sure that you do that, because this is one of those documentaries that you do not want to miss, right? It's exploring so much stuff, and regardless of if you are Filipino heritage, there's so much to take from this. So make sure you go to the website, subscribe to the mailing list, go follow their Instagram, and taking Treasures of the Terraces. Jacob, Ken, this has been fantastic, and I hope when you have your next projects, you will come by for another conversation.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Kevin.
Thanks for the time, Kevin.
No worries, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day, okay?
You too.
Well. Have a good one.